Hey, how you doing? This is Adam Post, publisher of more than 1,000 comic books and marketing expert covering Disney. Whoa, Disney is getting humiliated as investor Nelson Peltz officially just today announces his hostile takeover plan of the board of directors. Let's get into the story. Before we do, please be sure you are subscribed to the channel. Click the bell for notifications. Give me a thumbs up. I really appreciate you guys. This just came out today from the Wall Street Journal. And basically what's happened here is Nelson Peltz spoke to Bob Iger earlier this morning and said, hey, look, we want to put at least a couple of people on the board of directors. Bob Iger said, well, not really. We'll meet with you. You can meet with the board of directors if you like. We'll listen to what you have to say, but you're not coming on our board of directors. There was a deadline coming up. Nelson Peltz needed to make a decision. So he told Bob Iger, okay, we are going to have a proxy fight. A proxy fight, also called a proxy contest or a proxy battle, happens when a shareholder or a group of shareholders attempts to influence the outcome of a corporate vote. This typically happens when shareholders want to take over a corporation by replacing upper management or even the board of directors. That's what's going down. Nelson Peltz will need to spend $100 million at least promoting why he thinks he needs to take over the board of directors. But if he does take over the board of directors, there will be tremendous change at Disney. Nelson Peltz also is not some guy who's just a regular billionaire. Yeah, he is a self-made billionaire who is off the street. He has done this with other big companies before. He's dealt with Procter & Gamble, Cisco, Invesco, Janus Henderson, Unilever, also GE, also DuPont. Some of these companies, he's able to fight with them, get on the board of directors, and get major changes done that improve the value of the company. He's also fought with Pepsi, had control of Wendy's. He's done a lot of things and had a lot of success. And many people in the investment community, a lot of Wall Street, take Nelson Peltz very seriously. And this is why Bob Iger is worried. Bob Iger knows Nelson Peltz is going to create change at Disney. An investment banker whose insight I have a lot of respect for, William Cohen, who's now retired, has said he thinks Peltz will get at least one person on the board of directors at Disney. If Peltz is successful in doing that, there will be change at Disney. From the Wall Street Journal, Nelson Peltz announces fresh proxy fight against Walt Disney. From CNBC, Disney CEO Bob Iger admits company's motives have been too focused on messaging. This is the first time, and this just happened yesterday, Bob Iger has admitted that entertainment should come before social messaging. He's never admitted that before. He has said before that he's going to try to quiet the noise with respect to the anti-woke and the woke disputes, but he's not been specific about it. This is because of Nelson Peltz. There's no other way Bob Iger would have had any interest in saying anything to do with telling creative people what to do at Disney. He has really zero confidence in that, other than telling people to do whatever they want. That he doesn't seem to have a problem with, but trying to tell people that they need to correct how they're making their movies and TV shows, he's not done that before. Now he's doing it. He feels the heat from Nelson Peltz. From CNN Business, Disney CEO Bob Iger says number one priority is turning around Marvel, acknowledges too many sequels after box office misses. But of course, if you follow Marvel and you follow the Disney and Marvel franchises, you know that sequels had nothing to do with Disney having a problem at the movie theaters. Spider-Man, even though it's been owned by Sony, has generated billions of dollars in movie tickets. And the next Spider-Man movie will also generate billions of dollars. Guardians of the Galaxy 3 was the only movie that looks like it made a profit for Disney that was a big budgeted movie in 2023. That was Guardians of the Galaxy 3. So what, you shouldn't have made that sequel? No. It's not about the sequels, it's about the quality of the movies, and really it's about focusing on telling the stories of the characters that you know satisfies the customers, as opposed to pushing an agenda. From the Wall Street Journal, activist investor says Disney turned down Trian requests for board seats. And when we say activist investor, we don't mean someone who's a woke activist. We mean someone who is basically a corporate raider, a green mailer, somebody who pushes companies to change And if the companies don't change, then the proxy fight happens where they try to get control of what the company is doing. Activist investor Nelson Peltz intends to launch a new proxy fight against Disney after the company rebuffed his request to be added to the board of directors. Peltz's Trian Fund Management said Disney shareholders have lost about $70 billion in value since the activist investor ended his first campaign 1 year ago approximately in February. Trian said that it spoke to Disney CEO Bob Iger on Thursday morning and that the company's board agreed to meet with the investment firm but wouldn't grant its request for board representation, so they wouldn't add Nelson Peltz's people to Disney's board of directors. Trian controls roughly $3 billion worth of Disney stock and is seeking multiple directors on the board. The activist investor said it plans to take its case directly to shareholders without specifying what changes it seeks. It's not going to tell Disney what they're going to do and what their narrative and their argument's going to be. But this is why you see Bob Iger saying, yeah, we've been focusing too much on messaging and too many sequels. And Bob Iger will say anything he needs to say to buy himself some time until basically he retires. But at the same time, Bob Iger has been very clever with trying to defend the company. He found another activist investor called Value Act who supports what Bob Iger wants to do at the company and supports Bob Iger's management. He's trying to block Nelson Peltz that way. He's also brought in a chief financial officer, a guy named Hugh Johnston, who seems like he's a very capable guy right out of Pepsi, but has no entertainment experience, which makes people wonder, if he has no entertainment experience and he's your chief financial officer now, he's starting in December, why can't Nelson Peltz be on your board even though Nelson apparently doesn't have enough entertainment experience for Bob Iger to approve him, but you can bring in a CFO with no entertainment experience in an entertainment company? Doesn't really make sense. Except Hugh Johnston is Bob Iger's #1 pick most likely to take over for him as CEO. Disney said in response to Peltz's announcement that it's moving from a period of fixing to one of building, has a strong balance sheet, and continues to refresh its board. But that's not all Disney said. They also said this. Disney also suggested the proxy fight that Nelson Peltz is launching comes from former Marvel CEO Ike Perlmutter's grudge against Disney CEO Bob Iger. What is this grudge? Bob Iger, to push a woke agenda, betrayed Ike Perlmutter by overriding Ike Perlmutter's decision, saying, no, we're going to make the Captain Marvel movie. And not only that, he told Ike Perlmutter he would no longer have anything to do with Marvel's movies. A couple of years later, when Ike Perlmutter supported Nelson Peltz and they were trying to get someone on the board of directors, Bob Iger wound up terminating and getting rid of Ike Perlmutter altogether. Ike Perlmutter obviously cares about the Marvel characters, but also has more than $1 billion invested in Disney stock. It was part of his deal when he sold Marvel to Disney. Ike has lost at least $1 billion, if not more, from Bob Iger deciding to push a woke agenda and generally mismanaging Disney. That's what the grudge and the fight with Ike Perlmutter is all about. Peltz announced the campaign to move forward with a proxy fight to control the board of directors a day after Disney said it had appointed Morgan Stanley chief executive James Gorman and former Sky CEO Jeremy Darroch as new directors to the board. Peltz said the additions of Gorman and Darroch represent an improvement from the status quo, but wouldn't restore investors' confidence in the entertainment giant. Peltz launched his first campaign to try to control the board of directors against Walt Disney a year ago, seeking a board seat and deep cost cuts at the company. He backed off after Disney announced a program of layoffs and budget cuts in February 2023, but indicated that he could come back if financial performance did not improve. So Peltz has already influenced Disney, getting them to cut between $5 and $7 billion worth of expenses. Former Marvel Entertainment chairman Ike Perlmutter said in October that he entrusted Disney shares that he owns to Nelson Peltz to help press for changes at the company. Trian said in a November regulatory filing that it has nearly 34 million shares in its war chest worth about $2.7 billion or roughly 1.8% of the company. The majority of that stake was controlled by Perlmutter, the Wall Street Journal previously reported. Quote, Disney's share price has underperformed proxy peers and the broader market over every relevant period during the last decade and over the tenure of each incumbent director, Peltz said in the Thursday statement. Investor confidence is low, key strategic questions loom, and even Disney's CEO is acknowledging that the company's challenges are greater than previously believed. In Disney's response to Peltz Thursday morning, the company also took aim at the relationship between Peltz and Perlmutter, a dynamic that it said is relevant to assessing Mr. Peltz and any other nominees he may put forth as directors. Perlmutter was terminated from his role as head of Marvel Entertainment in March, a dismissal the former executive described as a firing, and Disney said was a layoff. Disney said Thursday that Perlmutter, quote, has voiced his long-standing personal agenda against Disney CEO Robert Iger, which may be different than that of other shareholders. It's not a personal vendetta, as if Ike Perlmutter fell out of love with Bob Iger, or maybe they're fighting over the same girl. It's nothing to do with him personally. It has to do with the poor execution at Disney with the Marvel brand. As Disney said itself, their number one agenda is turning around Marvel. And of course, it has nothing to do with sequels. It has to do with trying to take a standard boys property, which is what was sold to Disney, and then converting it into some kind of bizarre girl property that has nothing to do with superheroes. The people that have loved Marvel Comics for decades, the kids that were interested in Marvel that grew up and even as adults still were interested in Marvel, no longer recognize what Marvel used to be. And it's not because they are bigoted, it's not because they don't like women, it's because that is not what Marvel is. Bob Iger has turned Marvel into a complete mess and a total disaster, and one that no one could argue has been a financial failure. Which leads us to Alex Sherman's story that just came out today from CNBC. Disney CEO Bob Iger admits the company's movies have been too focused on messaging. Which, how did that happen? How did it happen that every one of the studios supposedly independently run, Pixar, Disney Animation, Lucasfilm, Marvel, all seem to be excessively promoting a woke political messaging agenda instead of telling good stories first? You can make any point that you want to make in a story. Stories are incredibly persuasive. You just have to show it through the character arc, through the change in the character in a story. It's more difficult to do in television, but it's actually very straightforward and easy to do in movies. You just have to tell a good story that has a point to it. With great power comes great responsibility. That's Spider-Man's story. But you could tell the opposite story. You could say with great power comes great opportunity for yourself. It doesn't have to be about doing things for society. You can have whatever theme or through line you want to have for a story, but it still has to be constructed properly. And the whole representation agenda is about seeing people that look like you. Having people that look like you is not telling a story. It doesn't mean you can't have characters of all kinds of backgrounds and colors and sexualities. You can do whatever you want to do, but it still has to be properly structured as a story. The physical appearance of characters is not storytelling. In comic books, we would say you can't just do cool-looking pinups. You have to tell a story, and none of this could have happened without Bob Iger's approval. Disney's chief executive officer, Bob Iger, said Wednesday he will no longer tolerate his company's partners and creative team prioritizing messaging over storytelling. Quote, creators lost sight of what their number one objective needed to be, Iger said at the DealBook Summit in New York on Wednesday. We have to entertain first. It's not about messages. Iger has recently pushed to improve the quality of Disney films in 2024 and beyond. He is cutting back the number of movies Disney makes to focus on making better films. Earlier this week, he told Disney employees at a town hall that creating hit movies is the best way the company can change perception for investors and employees. Iger said Disney's prioritization of messaging over storytelling peaked while he was gone in 2022, alluding to the 11 months he left as Disney's executive chairman. Iger had been in charge of creative endeavors in 2020 and 2021, even while Bob Chapek ran the company as CEO. Well, we have entertained with values and with having a positive impact on the world in many different ways. Black Panther is a great example of that, Iger said. I like being able to entertain if you can infuse it with positive messages and have a good impact on the world. Fantastic. But that should not be the objective. When I came back, what I have really tried to do is return to our roots, which is nothing that Bob Iger has ever said since this moment, the day before he had the showdown with Nelson Peltz. Hopefully, this is what Nelson Peltz is going to push, because a lot of us on social media, a lot of us on YouTube can support Nelson Peltz if Peltz will just call out Bob Iger for pushing this silly agenda instead of telling good stories. Disney has dealt with blowback from Republican politicians, including Florida Governor Ron DeSantis and Senator Cruz, and critics on social media for including a same-sex kiss in 2022's Lightyear and an openly gay character in 2022's Strange World. These are movies, of course, that Disney has lost hundreds of millions of dollars on. Just those two. 2023's Elemental also includes a non-binary character. While Disney has a long history of infusing storytelling with positive morals, Iger acknowledged during Disney's earnings conference call earlier this month that he believes the company's storytelling has suffered as the company has increased the number of movies it's made for both Disney Plus and theatrical release. Iger reiterated that he stressed to his creative executives and production partners that making engaging stories has to be Disney's first priority. Quote, "I've worked hard since I've been back to reminding the creative community who are our partners and our employees that that's the objective," Iger said. "And I don't really want to tolerate the opposite." Iger's comments come as Disney faces pressure to turn around its business and boost its share price. Sustained box office troubles, including the recent disappointing showings of The Marvels and the animated film Wish, have weighed on the company's performance. Activist investor Trian Peltz's Trian Fund Management said in a statement Thursday it will move forward with an effort to nominate new directors to the Disney board, concluding that investor confidence is low, key strategic questions loom, and even Disney CEO is acknowledging that the company's challenges are greater than previously believed. Trian will seek multiple board seats according to a person familiar with the matter. Disney named two new board members on Wednesday, former Morgan Stanley CEO James Gorman and former Sky CEO Jeremy Darroch, as it gears up for a potential proxy fight with Peltz. Current Disney board member Francis A. DeSouza won't run for re-election at the annual meeting. Nelson Peltz does support Ike Perlmutter. Nelson Peltz does want to see changes at Disney. It's now gotten to the point where pretty much all the cards are on the table. Bob Iger has admitted that woke messaging in their movies has interfered with basic storytelling. This is something that should not happen at a multi-million-dollar company, much less a multi-billion-dollar company like Disney. They are professionals at Disney. They do know what they're doing at the highest levels. They should not be taking the company's brands and the company's assets and utilizing them to push their own personal political agendas and try to change the world. They should be producing entertaining content that people enjoy, that are consistent with Disney's key brand as well as the brands that Disney acquired. They have no right to change those brands to try to serve some other agenda. Bob Iger is no doubt concerned that he's dealing with Nelson Peltz and Ike Perlmutter. He knows Ike Perlmutter specifically told him, do not take Marvel and try to turn it into some kind of a crazy woke company. You can't make movies based on characters that will not sell toys. If they don't sell toys, they're not good characters. It's that simple. Ike Perlmutter saved Marvel from bankruptcy. He trusted Bob Iger with it. Bob Iger decided that for some reason he knew better and tried to feminize Marvel or turn Marvel into something that it never was. The result being now Bob Iger says his number one priority is to try to turn around Marvel. What I expect to see is a fight. I don't see Bob Iger making any changes on his own. I don't think he has the courage, and I don't think he has the ability. Nelson Peltz can win. He's got Ike Perlmutter with him. They are very tough guys. They are both fighters, and they've both had success in influencing multi-billion-dollar companies before. Let's see what happens. I will be covering it. Make sure you are subscribed to the channel. Let me know what you think of all this. in the comments below. Always love to see your ideas. Please be sure you are subscribed to the channel. Click the bell for notifications, give me a thumbs up, and I'll see you again soon with another video. And if I don't see you, I will miss you.